This could be the hot take of the year here, but do water and electrolytes play a role in muscle cramps at all?
What makes a little bit more sense, the electrolyte dehydration hypothesis or the neuromuscular imbalance hypothesis? Let's go. We better explain a little bit more because, it's pretty easy to, at first glance to think about what the issue is for the electrolyte dehydration imbalance hypothesis, right? Like you're depleted in electrolytes, didn't get those right, or you're dehydrated. Let's move over to the neuromuscular hypothesis. And what are we talking about? The hypothesis is that cramping is really a neuromuscular issue that tends to be due a little bit more to a lack of familiarity and with the task that you're doing in the context that you're doing. And to understand it more, we need to go a little bit into the weeds of physiology and think about some of the neuromuscular nerve receptors and sensors that are in our musculoskeletal neuromuscular system. And there's two main ones. There's a number, but the two big ones in this hypothesis is one called your muscle spindle. And these muscle spindle are little sensors that are in every muscle fiber that talk to the nerves that go back to the spinal cord sensors that are actually within the muscle. So if your muscle's being stretched, they're telling your brain and spinal cord about that stretch. And then we've got another one also looking at tension, and it's called the Golgi tendon organ, and it sits in all of your tendons, right? So every time your Achilles tendon is one that we all know, like that's our largest tendon in the body is the Achilles tendon. It also is talking to the brain and spinal cord. Now, what winds up happening in this hypothesis is that there is chatter between the muscle spindle and the Golgi tendon and the spinal cord to make sure that your coordination is correct. And that chatter is there for a reason. It's there to make sure that everything is going on in our body is right and makes sense, and we're not going to injure ourselves. But all of a sudden, when we're doing something that's unfamiliar and we haven't done before, there's sometimes this reflex that occurs, and it causes the muscle to cramp and spasm. And the thinking is that spasm, that cramp, is there for actual reason, and it's there to stop you from hurting yourself further. It's just a little kick in the ass to remind you that, hey, this has not been done before, and you need to really think about continuing along this way, or you're going to harm me, the whole organism. And that's because you're resetting the whole conversation, as we mentioned, between the spindle and the Golgi tendon organ. So by stretching that muscle out, you're stretching say it was your calf, and you're doing a calf stretch, or a hamstring, and you're doing a hamstring stretch. It almost, it very quickly is alleviated. Then of course you get going again, and then it it goes, at least initially and acutely, you can completely alleviate it. And so that's really all you can do in an acute setting is just stop and try to stretch it before you get going again. And then of course you probably need to lower your intensity of movement. But to prevent it from happening in the first place, the hard news is that you just have to train harder or longer or more intelligently. The more prepared you are, like we often said, there really shouldn't be too many surprises on race day when the preparation is done to perfection, because you've done a lot, good portions of that race. You can go through your week and you've hit so many sort of targets and pinch points in your race throughout the whole thing. And once you've done that, the race is just it's just an execution of what we know is under the hood. Less likely that any cramping will occur if the preparation is gone accordingly. Well, the data doesn't support that it does. And if anyone's out there and they know of a study that like an actual study that supports that hypothesis, please include it in the comments, and we'd love to hear about that study. But as far as I'm aware, there is no study. There's a lot of companies that are promoting their products that strongly push that, and that's a very loud noise that's out there. But again, I know as a sports science professor, and if I go all through all the studies in the literature, I can't find any that support that hypothesis. I can find a number that support the neuromuscular hypothesis.